started around 3 minutes past the hour. All right, thank you everyone for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Courtney Raymond and I'm on the marketing team at OpenStax. And I'm joined this afternoon by Tamsin Murnaghan from Lyryx. By the way, Tamsin, I apologize in advance if I've mispronounced your last name, because I just realized I haven't verified with you how to pronounce it, but would you like to jump in and say hi?
Yeah, no worries. It's not, it doesn't roll off the tongue very easily. It's Tamsin Murnaghan. Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks, Tamsin Murnaghan. Sorry, we've talked many times, but we haven't gone over the pronunciation. So sorry. But I'm really thrilled that she's joined us today to talk to us more about their platform and how it integrates with our accounting books. They are a great partner of ours and offer a really great online homework option if you are interested in using either of our accounting texts. So I'm going to start by jumping in with a little intro of what OpenStax is all about for those of you who are less familiar or might need a refresher. That'll be brief, and then I'm going to hand it over to Tamsin to talk more about Lyryx and show us what the platform can do. So OpenStax is a part of Rice University in Houston. We were actually founded by a Rice professor named Rich Baranook in 1999. And at that point, we were called Connections, and we were just, we started out as a platform that enabled anybody to publish their own content under an open license and to remix and share it. And then we became OpenStax in 2012 when we published our first free peer-reviewed, openly licensed book, which was College Physics. And that was the beginning of our mission to publish openly licensed college level textbooks, starting out with the 25 most highly enrolled introductory college courses, which by then we've met that goal and have continued to develop the library. So in the future, we look to continue to expand into more books, going into verticals to cover courses across degree plans, and also to continue to do research into what helps students learn. So a few numbers to look at our impact across the years. So this year we have 3 million students using our books, and these numbers are just coming from the usage that's reported to us by instructors. Usage isn't required to be reported because the books are freely available, but we invite people to let us know when they're using, because it helps us with our grant funding and just knowing the impact of the content. We've had 9 million students use the books since our first book was published in 2012. We're in 56% of institutions across the US, and we're in many countries across the world as well. We currently have 39 titles in our library, and we have over 20,000 instructors using our textbooks this year. So our books are openly licensed, as I mentioned, but they go through the same peer review process and quality standards as traditional textbooks. They cover the standard scope and sequence of most introductory courses so that they can be widely adopted. And we did focus on those highest enrolled undergraduate courses so we could try to maximize our impact in the shortest amount of time. The open license means that instructors can remix, reuse, revise, and redistribute the books as long as they attribute OpenStax. So you can add your own content, you can take content away, you can do whatever you need to make it fit your course. This is just a look at our library right now. I know for these purposes, we're focusing on accounting, but just to give you an idea of the scope of the offerings that we have right now. And then I wanted to go over some of the benefits of OER, and this is part of why, as a nonprofit, developing open resources is a huge part of our mission to increase access and improve learning. So with open resources, every student has immediate and unlimited access to the material. It's not behind a paywall, it's not behind a login, it's just online, and it won't go away. The standard scope and sequence I mentioned earlier. We have a variety of technology partners like Lyryx to allow choice. Permission-free use, editing, and adaptation is facilitated by that open license. And the variety of formats and partners eliminates one size fits all. You can use the content forever. There are no takedown notices when showing the content publicly. And then we have ancillaries that can be used at any institution, minimizing faculty course prep. So just to explain a little bit more about the variety of formats and then the ancillaries, I'm going to show you, this is openstax.org. Let's go into one of the accounting books. So I'm going into business. We'll look at volume 1, financial accounting. So here on the left under get the book, you'll see each option. These are all of the formats that are available for the book. So we recommend our view online for our in-browser book that enables highlighting and note-taking. You can also search around in the book, go from section to section. Each section has its own URL, so you can assign sections within your syllabus if you want to mix up the order or skip around or do whatever you need to do. Then we do offer, let me reload this book page. We also offer the book in a PDF format. Some people prefer to have that saved. We have a mobile app, and you're also able to order print copies. We find that 8 to 10% of students still prefer having a hard copy of their book. So you can either order individual online, or you can have your bookstore order in bulk for your course. And we do keep those prices as low as we can. And then if you go to instructor resources, you'll see on the left, these are the free ancillaries that are available for you as an instructor. You just have to create a free instructor account to have access to them. And we do manually verify those accounts just to make sure that they don't get into the solutions manuals and such don't get into the hands of students. And then on the right, you'll see our technology partners for each book. And so here we're focusing on what Lyryx has to offer today. And then finally, just to talk to you a little bit about our partnership. So we partner with learning technology companies that we call OpenStax allies. Lyryx is one of those. And we partner with them to offer additional low-cost, high-value options to support instructors and students. They enrich our material by either integrating with the book or aligning with it and providing support to keep the books current and accessible. So our partners like Lyryx provide mission support fees back to OpenStax as a part of our partnership and using the content. And those fees help to fund revisions and updates to the book so that they're always current online, no matter when a student or instructor is accessing them. So they're a really important part of our ecosystem. And at this point, I'm going to pass the baton over to Tamsin to tell us a little bit more about Lyryx in particular. Tamsin, I'm handing it off right now.
Okay. Let me just do that.
Oh, and actually, let me also chime in really quickly. I forgot to mention this at the very beginning, but to all of our attendees, you did enter on mute to minimize background noise during the presentation, but we do encourage you to enter any questions or comments that you have. You should see a questions panel on the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can enter questions in there, and we'll answer as we can throughout, and then leave a bit of time at the end of the webinar as well to address any lingering questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Courtney. Hi, everyone. Thank you on Lyryx's behalf for attending our webinar. We've been working with OpenStax for a couple years now, and obviously we're super excited to be an OpenStax ally. A little bit of history on Lyryx. We have actually been working with OER since 2013. We started off working with some math OER textbooks, and we do actually create a lot of our own OER to go along with our online homework from here, but we're also an OpenStax ally for a number of their textbooks, including the 2 Principles of Accounting texts. For those of you who aren't familiar with Lyryx, and I'm sure that's pretty much everybody, we have actually been around for quite some time. We're over 20 years as an online homework provider. We used to work with McGraw-Hill here in Canada as their online homework provider for a number of their business and economics and mathematics textbooks. We started off as a grant project at the University of Calgary to develop online homework for linear algebra, and it kind of grew from there. And then in about 2013, we decided to start working with Open Educational Resources. We found that the values of the OER community aligned really closely with who we are in terms of accessibility and affordability for students. So that's sort of the quick background on us, but we have been developing high quality online homework for over 20 years, and we've been used substantially throughout Canada. And in the past few years, we've been adopted at quite a few institutions in the US. So while we're not well known, we're getting there and doing what we can in the OER community. So just a quick, I just have a few quick slides and then I'll take you right into the platform. Just to give you a brief overview of what we offer. We do authentic questions. So we work with subject matter experts to look at the content and basically create questions that are appropriate for the content and are pedagogically sound for the students. We have intelligent question generation. So every iteration of the question is different. They're all randomized. And oftentimes it's not just the amounts, it's the types of, GL accounts for the sake of accounting. It's the GL accounts, it's the amounts, it's the ordering, that sort of thing. So we want to give the students infinite opportunities to practice so that they're actually mastering the concepts. We also have a positive learning environment. So as opposed to right, wrong, here's where you go to figure things out, we try to actually give the students feedback that's instructive to what they're doing. So you'll notice on this screen here, we've got green, red, and blue highlights for the answer in this question. Green indicates correct, red is incorrect, but there's also feedback, which I'll show on the next page. And then blue is that we call it consistent grading. So similar to what an instructor would do when they're looking at homework and saying, oh, well, you've got a couple of things wrong in here, which made your answers incorrect, but this is actually a consistent answer with using the incorrect answer from above. So we're trying to help the students learn that while they've made an error, they didn't make an error throughout. So we really focus on that as well as instructive feedback. So you'll notice here that with each of the incorrect answers, there's some feedback that's given that's obviously specific to the actual answer that they've given, and then the overall mark is there. So all of our questions are like this, with the exception of we have multiple question formats. We've got multiple choice, we've got fill in the blank, and a few different other ones. But for some of these larger questions, we certainly are giving very direct and instructive feedback. So when I go into the platform, I'll look at this a little bit more carefully, but we've got all of the options you would need for an assignment. And I just wanted to show you a quick image of it, but we'll look through it a little bit more closely. This is an image from our grade book. Because our demo course doesn't have students enrolled in it, I just pulled this screenshot from a random course, but I just wanted to iterate that you can see the questions within an individual lab as you set it up. And then you can actually also see your students' attempts on each of those questions. So you would be able to actually click on here and see the student's response. So we find this is really helpful for when, you know, a student has a question about a particular question where they're going wrong, or sometimes it's even a matter of like, there's another potential answer for the question that perhaps you as an individual instructor might be teaching it a certain way, in which case we can update the question to incorporate that answer. So this is just a quick look at course statistics. So for that same lab we were looking at, this allows you to see the number of completions and the average, or the highest and lowest scores. So you can see if there's any significant disparity in here, and it would allow you to cover a concept again, or maybe just chat with individual students about that question in class or something like that. Common question we get about LMS integration. We do have both single sign-on and gradebook integration. So there's no issues with linking directly from any of the LMS. And then the gradebook also integrates for a very specific question. It integrates once a day. So for the students who are wanting to check their grades on their own LMS, they can definitely see that updated daily. And then one of our major ideals here is providing support for students and instructors that is extremely timely and, well, for lack of a better word, helpful. We've worked in online homework for over 20 years, and we recognize that when we're talking about things that have to do with marks and assignments and due dates, timeliness is extremely important. So there's just a few items here in terms of instructor support. So we facilitate adoption, adaptation, and navigation. We have multi-section management. So we do obviously set up large numbers of sections, and we have teaching assistant accounts. For student support, we are extremely helpful with registration and payment and whatnot, course section changes, as well as just site navigation. We do have email support 365 days a year, and our response time is within 24 hours. Oftentimes it's within 4 hours that users will see a response. And so from there, I just want to move over to the platform to give you a sort of a quick overarching view of how things work. This is the landing page for us. So we've got a calendar over here, assignments show up, some help articles, support is obviously over here, and then your individual courses would show here. So we're going to do demo the OpenStax accounting. The tabs up here help you navigate through the site. This has a sample assignment in it, so you can click a question to run it. I'm just going to move this over a little bit. That's question 1 for the sample assignment. You can work through it if you like, but this is essentially what your students would see as well. So all of their assignments and quizzes would show here. We can access the assignments either by clicking here or clicking here. The textbook is linked to OpenStax. So it will bring up the actual textbook for the student. We link to this page because it never changes. We don't link to a PDF or any of the other options, just because this is the consistent page. So students can download the textbook from there. And it's taking me back here. We're just going to go here. This is a study guide that students see. So it's essentially, depending on the questions and what's set up for their assignments, they'll see a yellow bar until they see some green as they complete, and if there's red. So it's basically meant to help them identify issues with their own studying. This is the edit assignments page. So this is the most comprehensive page in the platform. It contains our entire question bank. So it allows you to actually explore all of the questions within the bank. They're all listed here. So set up the same way as the actual textbook is set up with OpenStax. And your typical due dates, attempts, whether you want to run the questions individually or all at once, and that you can basically change the name of the assignment and whatnot. And then down here, you'll see all of the questions. So depending on what you're looking for, you'll see the different questions. You get a description of the actual question. One thing that I will mention is that we have questions we haven't drawn all the questions from the end of chapters in the OpenStax book. We have a lot of sort of question formats that we already had because we've been working in accounting for quite some time that we have in ours. We've drawn some from the OpenStax textbooks, but ultimately this gives you a whole additional question bank beyond what's in the back of the textbook. So if you like to, sometimes do some of those assignments, some of those exercises and whatnot in class, you can still use those and you'll still see a lot of unique questions inside the Lyryx platform. I'm just gonna pull up a slightly more, special journals. So I wanted to pull up something that just has a little bit more total points. So you can actually try the questions here. So you'll notice that this is a fairly long special journals. The students do quite a bit of work and it's worth 50. So obviously it's quite a lot. What will help with the learning is essentially trying the questions over. So all of these items will change in terms of accounts and balances and whatnot. So it's really meant to help the students process how an actual question would work in an exam. You add the question as you move along. You can move them up and down. Whether I click on it over here or I click on it over here, you'll see a description of the question. So that's pretty much that. I'm going to leave this page. This is the Manage Students button, so you can actually look for a student in here. One of the things we often get asked is about individual extensions, because obviously you can set the start and due dates for the individual courses. But if you have a student who, for any particular reason, whether it's accessibility or a learning disability or really just a time factor, you can find a student and actually allow for an individual extension for them. So obviously you would choose the individual assignment and then assign it based on that one student. And then you'd be able to see an extension summary as well if you were to give out a number of extensions. The grade book, all of the students will be loaded here. Obviously, you'd see all your individual assignments, and this is what does link to the LMS. So all that needs to happen, we have a few different weighting options. You can choose which ones you can remove. You can show and hide columns here as you wish. And then as you hit the course grade, once you select this will allow for everything to happen with the LMS and for everything to show inside whatever LMS you're using. There is also an option to download to Excel should you not be using LMS. This was that course statistics, that blue and green graph that I was showing previously. So that's the way it would look if we had someone in there. We also have a class demo tool. We had, when we were working with McGraw a long time ago, we actually had quite a few requests from instructors to have the ability to run static questions, so ones that wouldn't randomize, so that they could work through them in class with students and show, kind of common errors, show how they would actually work through one of these questions. So that's also an option here for you to use. That's everything in a nutshell. Obviously, if people have more questions, I'm happy to answer them. And then we offer free demo courses, so the entire thing you can check out and play around with. You just have to let us know and we'll set that up for you.
Tamsin, thanks so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so I'm looking and I don't see any questions currently, but
Okay.
let me just give you guys a couple more minutes. If you do have a question for Tamsin or for me, please feel free to enter it now in the question panel. Okay, I did see I did see a couple come through. So
Okay.
Patricia asks, can students use their phone to do homework?
Yes. Yes, they can. We've tested our platform on all like tablets, phones, all PCs. It works on all platforms.
Great. And then Perry asks, what are all of the helps available for struggling students?
Well, the feedback is a primary one in terms of working through a question. So when I was, I'm just going to go back to this. The feedback is quite instructive and allows for the students to work through it again. We don't necessarily offer, you know, like I know sometimes some homework platforms will offer hints and whatnot. But when you're working through a question, a lot of what we focus on is looking at, I'm just going to go back here for a second and pull up a question, is actually looking at, especially with accounting, looking at things from sort of a comprehensive perspective and seeing things like, you know, if I open this here, getting a full chart of accounts and being able to see how these are listed as assets, liabilities, equity. So narrowing things down there, but then also being able to see them all. I was going to say we did have videos in our, but it's in our other accounting products. So they don't necessarily apply. We haven't put them in for OpenStax because they apply to a different product that's sort of taught in a different order. So for, obviously we're talking about accounting. So going from this product goes from sole proprietorship to corporate, and our text goes from corporate to sole proprietorship. So it's a little bit of a flip. I don't know. I hope that sort of answers the question.
Sounds good. And then Lori asks, what is the cost to students?
Yeah, I realized when I had finished that I hadn't brought that up. So all of our products are $39.95 for a student per course. And then any repeats or courses that use the same product, and that's i.e. the same textbook, are $19.95. But we also are a little different in terms of online homework, where we actually offer a free option on campus for students. So we set it up so that we get the IP addresses for campus computer labs, and we allow students in for free if they access their homework from there. And then they would just pay for the homework if they accessed it from home or at work or somewhere else. So we do have a free option as well.
All right, and Roxanne has a couple of questions. The first
Okay.
one is, can time limits be set on assignments, such as if we are building quizzes or exams?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't cover that. When you actually set up a new assignment in here, you can set up a lab or a quiz. And if you set up a quiz, I'm just going to do that. If you set up a quiz, you get a few different options in here. So you still have your available and due date. You can set the number of attempts the same as above, and you can set a time frame here. You can also set a password if you wish. And you can decide whether you want to allow the students to see the feedback after their submission, or if you want to hide it until after the due date. So, and when students do take a quiz, they're basically, the system puts everything Lyryx on lockdown. So they can't go back and look at any of their labs or anything like that. It only allows them to be in the quiz at that time.
All right, and she also asks, are there algorithmic questions so individual students would see different numbers to reduce cheating?
Yes, every single question that is produced, every time a student goes in and tries, sorry, I'm just gonna go in here to show. Every time they hit submit and mark, they get obviously feedback on the question. And then if they attempt it again, they'll get all different numbers, and that applies for every individual student as well. So it tests the same concept, but the questions are different for each iteration.
Okay, great. And then Sheila asks, on the problems, are the students using drop-down lists to choose accounts, labels, etc., or do the students have to actually enter the text into the forms?
No, they do have drop downs. So you'll notice here, if I select something here, it'll just pop it in. They can also do things like drag and drop numbers. I'm obviously not doing this correctly. It gives you the drop downs here. The same thing for like the dates. They don't, sorry, I'm just gonna select this. They can actually search for the items here as well. So say they were looking for something, we can just type in cash. And if I hit cash and enter, it'll automatically enter it as well. So it all kind of depends on the student's preference, but there's drag and drop, search function, and yeah, and then they can enter it as well.
All right. Ray asks or says the free version is complete with the only restriction being location. Is it only available in campus labs or is it available on their own device through campus Wi-Fi?
We prefer the campus labs in general. The idea of having the free access is to give it to students who who genuinely need it. Whereas if we put it on the Wi-Fi, then it's obviously everywhere. So we do try to keep it local. We recognize that sometimes the way that the actual Wi-Fi and IP addresses and whatnot are kept on the institution's campus can make it a little bit difficult for that. So sometimes we make exceptions, but primarily we work with using the actual IPs for the computers, like hardline computers.
Okay, and then Patricia asks, can only the instructor see the grades of students, or is there an administrator access also to see results from all classes running?
It depends on how you set it up. So your instructor, like if you have an administrator who sets everything up, who needs to see that access, we can obviously add them to each of the individual sections if you have multiple sections or something. It's really just depends on how you want it set up.
And I know you guys work a lot with people setting up new accounts to kind of make sure that it's exactly the way that they need it for their course or for the structure at their institution.
Yep.
So a lot of it has to do with that, right?
Yeah, a lot of our instructor support is really focused on making sure that obviously the instructor is supported. We recognize that moving to new platforms and new textbooks, it obviously becomes quite cumbersome for an instructor. And when it comes to setting up the course, we handle all of that on our end. Typically, the only issues that arise with setup is if there's an LMS thing, and it's really just a matter of getting it set up on the LMS on the institution side. But we work super closely with instructors and administrators and tech people as well, just to get everything set up accordingly.
Great. And then we have another question from Roxanne. She asks, can we build homework and quizzes from chapters across both books in one class for the single class fee? So I'm guessing across both accounting books.
No, we don't have them combined. So it would be 2 individual courses.
Okay. And that was the last question we had. Does anybody else have another question before we go today? All right, I'm not seeing any. So in the chat area, I'm leaving my email address in case you guys do ever have any more questions come up. Feel free to email me. My email is courtneyraymond@rice.edu. And then Tamsin, if they're interested in learning more, or maybe trying a free demo course, what's their next step? What's the best way to go about that?
There's a couple options. You can either email me. I'm just going to throw my email in the chat as well. And basically, you can go to our site, lyryx.com, and up in the right-hand corner, there's a demo course, request demo course button, and you can request a free demo course there and see the entire platform in its entirety.
Great. All right, I think that's all we have then. Thank you everyone so much for taking the time out of your day today to come and sit with us. And I hope that you got some useful information. Do feel free to follow up with either one of us if you have any questions or comments anytime. And Tamsin, was there any last words that you wanted to leave too?
No, I appreciate everyone spending some time with us today. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions and dole out demo courses as required. So just feel free to email me.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.